let's do a little ramble about Carlton. So what I do is read the map of people's psyche. Now, people have a birthday. That is how I get their map. So everything that has a birthday has a map. And I have been down this rabbit hole of the maps of energy on the AFL team. Been down that rabbit hole a little while now. And so I wanted to share with you some of the overall energy of the Carlton team, because based on where it currently stands, I think you'll find it very interesting. This energy has a severe fear of change, a inability to let go of things from the past. It is the energy of making everything that it possesses part of who it is, and then being unable to let those things go for fear of losing its identity. The way that it builds its relationships with people, this energy, the relationships also come from this place of stubbornness, from this is the way I've always done it, so this is the way I'll do it. And if you don't want to come to the table, then I'm not interested in you getting to know me. Now, the emotional state of this energy is very much about luxury, as is a lot of other parts of it. But it is this energy of thinking that you are deserving of luxury and then possessing the luxury and making it part of who you are. So then again, adding another layer to the fear of risking the loss of that luxury. Okay, this is also the energy of someone who doesn't want to do the hard work, right? This energy is very top layer. There is a lot of things missing in the depths of this energy, and it gives the overall quality of not wanting to go deep, not wanting to look at the fear, not wanting to look at things that need to be changed. I'm just going to stay up here with my head above the water while the sun is out, having a really nice time, and I don't want to even hear about the sharks that are down there in the water, okay? Huge fear of ever seeing those sharks, huge fear of ever facing those sharks, and as long as we just keep our eyes up and we keep going forward and we grab onto the things that we possess, we are safe. We are safe. And the way that the leadership energy runs through the team is two things, right? It is very critical of itself and of everyone involved around it. It has a very set mind about how people are to show up so as not to upset the stability that it requires, and it's very judgmental about that. And it can't make a change to its rule structure unless it's done so in very small, habitual ways, right? Starting a new daily habit, letting that daily habit build until you understand it and you embody it, then adding a new habit, and on we go. And it's a very slow process, right? And at the same time as it being a very slow process, it also doesn't, then again, it doesn't want to go deep. It doesn't want to look deeper. It does not want to stop and see whether or not that's working, right? It just wants to, we're just going to go. We've made the plan, we're going. And it has a very self-righteous way of expanding. And as it's expanding, as it takes risks, it does so from a very egotistical place, right? It's the energy of not wanting to look at anybody else's emotions, thinking that the sun revolves around you, and because it does, you can take risks and get away with it. Now, the way that it brings change into its life is through these little habitual spaces, but it is also something that remains logical. And so this is not the energy that wants to go deep on any level, but specifically anything emotional. Like, we're going to stay here on the top of the water being very logical. Logically, this has worked for us before. Logically, on paper, this seems right. And there is a really difficult energy that makes it almost impossible to pivot when the reality of the plan that you made doesn't work. which is just so interesting to me. Okay, now this is the energy of moving towards, the overall goal is to move towards being a hard worker, being seen as good at your job, being seen as someone who puts the work in, somebody stable, right? Particularly the need to look stable in groups of people is huge, huge energy here, because it is, it's coming from this place of being too emotionally connected to things, right? Too emotionally unstable when it comes to reacting in the past. And so as it moves forward, it wants to do so by appearing stable. Okay, by appearing stable. And these are concepts that we've heard spouted from the Carlton team so many times. This idea of needing stability, needing to be able to show up the same, being consistent, right? This is the overall energy of where they want to be heading. But they have these wounds of identity and these wounds of faith where they're not quite sure who they are because they refuse to do a deep review of anything in case it needs them to pivot, because the fear of change is huge and we don't ever want to go deep and look in there. And the way that it shows up in the world is through a mask that is based in this need to overcome how unfair things have been in the past, right? This is well, that bad thing happened this many years ago and nobody lets me get away with it. Nobody, we're trying our best. We're trying our, it's this kind of toddler kind of energy, right? And, you have this wound of identity. You have this inability to look deep enough at a problem in order to show up authentically. So of course you have a wound of identity, because you are holding on to an identity from the past, something that you possess, something that you think is who you are, right? This is the energy of taking all of these things from the past and holding on to them for dear life and making them part of who you are. And it's an inability to move with the times, to flow with the times, to stop, look at the team that you have now, look at their needs, look at what they need, and pivot and adapt. Because once they have a plan in mind, that's what we do. And so as we move forward, the lessons that this energy is looking to learn are about how they form a rule structure around the relationships within the club, and how this wound of faith, always feeling hard done by and always feeling, worried that they'll lose something, and always feeling why is this happening to me? This victim mentality that they choose to use escape mechanisms to deal with by holding up things from the past. Look at this. This is their new journey. Okay. This is their new journey of having to face those things, of having the physical world present to them the holes in their emotional and spiritual connection with each other, and how that affects them with how they show up in the world. They are being forced to look at these things, and they are being forced to add a layer of depth to the way that they control the whole team energy, the whole club. And my opinion from watching this play out is that you can see these things forming, right? The energy of the world is asking us to be authentic, asking us to go with the flow, asking us to update and redefine our rule structures, asking us to have a more direct connection to our emotional state and understanding. And so individuals are experiencing these tests, these moments in their lives where they're being asked to do that with themselves. And then they are going into this team, right? These players are experiencing that. They're the individuals. Then they are part of this team that has an inability to adapt and change. And so it is this energy of well, how can I trust that if I can't show up as myself? And we start seeing the distrust, and we start seeing, the waning of being disciplined about what you want to do, because When your parameters for discipline are within the past mentality, are top level only, and we are only seeing, as long as you are showing up correct, we don't really care what else is going on. And this is one of the hugest problems. And so the more that we uncover about the reality and the authenticity of the people involved in the Carlton Club, players, etc., the more that we uncover their authenticity, the more the club is going to be asked to adapt, to pivot, to bring a more connected, as much as they say it, connected space for people to exist in. There needs to be a release of this wound of identity. They need to let go of who they think they were. They need to let go of this fear of people seeing them show up incorrectly. And they need to let the new energy of the club, and that includes the fans, the whole entire encompassing planet of Carlton, needs to be redirected to something that aligns with its new energy. And they can't fight this. And one of the reasons they can't fight this is because we have to get new players in. And if we get younger players, these younger players, their energy, it finds discipline only when it is being accepted for its authenticity. So the club is going to be forced to change in one way or another, whether it likes it or not. That is the journey that it is on, based on the map of its energy. So let's see how it plays out, because we are moving towards a massive shift, which will affect not only where the energy of the whole Carlton team is going. That sort of wraps up by November 20th. We will see what their plan is, basically. By November 20th, we'll kind of know what direction they're taking. And then by April next year, they will be overcoming all of the mistakes that they've made and really looking at their identity and how not having one that is current is destroying their ability to show up authentically. That's what I've got for you. Thanks for joining me. Go Blues.